Unless you have been living under a rock these past few years, you would probably be aware that after the pandemic struck, creators, and especially musicians, had been forced into kind of a creative lull. Inspiration was difficult to find, and collaboration was hard. But all of that is about to change. Because our guest for today is now paving the way towards revolutionizing how musicians across the globe can collaborate and produce music together. He is a platinum selling musician, patented inventor, and an NFT artist himself. I'm obviously talking about none other than Chad, aka Woodrow Gerber, and we have him right in the house today.
Yo.
Chad is the founder of Meloscene, a mixed reality technology company that is presumably building the first metaverse for musicians and is ushering in a new world of creative possibilities for creators to collaborate, create, and monetize their music. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Roy, welcoming you to a brand new episode of the MetaRoy podcast. Every week on this show, we simplify one aspect of the crypto and the Web3 space to move one step closer to our vision of mass adoption of this ecosystem. Before we start though, just a quick disclaimer. The following content is informational only and none of it should be interpreted as financial advice. So please do your own due diligence before making any moves in the crypto and the Web3 space. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Chad, thank you for joining us. And frankly, I'm a little starstruck right now, but it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you on this podcast. How's it going today?
Roy, what's going on, man? I am starstruck because I love your voice and everything that you are putting together right now, trying to make sense of this NFT chaos. So I'm stoked to be here, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chad, this question has been on my mind for a while. How did you get the nickname Woodrow Gerber?
It's really stupid, actually. But my first official gig that I had, I was like, where was I at? I was in this hip hop group. They brought me in to be the guitarist in this hip hop group out of like Dallas. And they all gave each other nicknames and they were trying to come up with a nickname for me. And they said that my teeth looked so straight that they look wooden. So they said I look like that one president, Woodrow Wilson, which that's not even the correct president. It's George Washington that they were thinking of, but they're rappers. So I let them just do their thing. It has something to do with Woodrow Wilson having wooden teeth. And so it just kind of stuck. And then my first real credit went out with my name Woodrow. So I just kept it. That's it.
Awesome. Chad, let's talk about your background a bit. You have had an unconventional journey and I would love to know about your background.
Yeah, I mean, it started out. So I grew up in a rural area in Montana, which is up by Canada. And, it hit me that I wanted to be a musician. It made sense to me. I just, everything about it just was what I wanted to do. But since I lived in this rural region, it was not really a thing. There was no musicians to kind of get plugged in with. So out of the gate, I was trying to figure out how do I do this when there's no other people that do music. So early on, this sense of disconnect kind of like set in with me, is that I don't have my people, which are like musicians and creatives. So I did the best that I could. And what I did is I ended up sneaking backstage to concerts and things that came through town. And I would bother these real musicians. And I would just be like, how do I get out of here? Like, how do I become you? And a lot of them would be like, well, here's my email, send me some demos. And then I did that for a while. And then they started to bring me out for projects when I was like 16 or 17 as a guitarist. And then I finally made my way, bounced around a bit, Miami, then the Dallas thing, and then made my way to Los Angeles, where I then kind of found my crew. And then I started making my way around in there, the local scenes, Warped Tour, things like that. The economy was going up and down and crazy the whole time until I got to where I am now, I guess. But I had a thing I was doing on the side. Just technology has kind of been probably what most people do is, end of the day, you watch TV. Technology has always been my thing, just poking at it since a little kid. So it all kind of converged around the pandemic, and now I'm just all over the board of whatever I am anymore. I don't even know what I am anymore.
I do have your bio, and you can't say that you're nothing anymore. So you are obviously also a patented tech inventor. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so like, okay, so I hate the fact I always reference this, but it helps me keep track in my own head. But have you ever seen that movie Slumdog Millionaire?
I do.
Where the dude has all these experiences throughout his whole life, and they just seem like miserable experiences, and then finally they matter. And that sort of has been my experience, not nearly as bad, but I was dragging around this whole hard drive in my head of just tech information and knowledge. It started when I was a little kid, just experimenting with technology. People would buy me, aviation books, and people would have me rip electronics apart. So I was just doing this my whole life. And I had this plan where I was like, in 2025, I'm going to step into the virtual reality space because people aren't ready yet and blah, blah, blah. So I had this sort of a window of when I wanted to attack this thing. And then on tours, flights, I would just sit there and think through my head, what is this going to look like and how are we going to do it? When the pandemic hit, I was talking with Gibson Guitars because I'm a Gibson artist. And so we were talking about some kind of cool ways to do technology and guitars. And then I mentioned my Metaverse platform, and everybody just kind of stopped in the meeting and they wanted to know all about it. So that was kind of the first cue where I was like, okay, maybe I need to pursue this. So I, went through my different friends. I have some brilliant friends who've worked for the military, NASA, you name it. And I was like, this is what I'm building. This is what I need. And they kind of guided me in the right direction. And I formed a team and then went through patent attorneys. It was a whole giant mess of paperwork. And then I got the patent filed and we started building out this VR mixed reality platform. It's AR, VR, but it happened. So it kind of took off a whole lot bigger than I ever imagined it to happen. So I guess I've just been trying to keep up with it because it's just kind of alive now,
Absolutely. Chad, we will talk about the metaverse ecosystem, but I really wanted to talk about your music experience a bit before we do that. You obviously have been in the music industry for a long time now. So what has changed since you started your musical journey?
Yeah. So a lot has changed, man. And none of it, I'm not like, sometimes these old dudes like to just whine about how music used to be, whatever. I don't come from that place at all. If people are creating and making music, I'm thrilled. I want everybody to make music, even if you suck at it. But when I started, a key factor is that you had to be really good and live. Like if I went into a studio or something, people were like, you pretty much get one shot. That's it. Knock it out. And studio stuff cost insane amounts of money. So I had to be the best possible guitar player that I could be, best songwriter. And then over time, as a lot of automation started to take place within software, people's standards of what they care about and don't care about, that shifted. You used to have like the 80s shredder guitar players. And then now you got Post Malone playing 3 chords. And that's fine. But what happened was that the automation aspect kind of took over. And so then it was more about, okay, the music, that's easy. That's automated, samples, whatever. How's your marketing game? How's your social media game? Pretty much how's everything other than your music? So that became the focus, which it's always been that to an extent. But now you have people coming up who it's like, I spent day and night forever learning this instrument. And now I feel bad for artists because they really have to do all of this nonsense, unless they like it, that's great. But in order to finally get to do what they want. So it's kind of flipped in a way where it used to be like, you got to show up and be good. Now it's like, how marketable are you? How's your TikTok game? And a lot of it's just because of the automation, the world itself has changed. But the good news is that people are still, that human desire to create is maybe even more ignited now than it was, which is fantastic. That's where it should be. And I want to help facilitate that so that everybody, even grandma, can jump in and create, because I'm a firm believer that art and creativity is one of the most basic human things that helps heal globally. And we don't have much of that happening or being facilitated. So that was my really long answer, but that's what it is.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And a lot of artists have been speaking about this as well, that there is kind of a lack of musical freedom, for example, which is enforced by record companies. There's a constant hunger for new social media content. The focus is shifting away from the music and more on social media, right? So with NFTs coming in, do you think there is kind of a balance being created in the music community?
I think that there's a balance. There's hope of a balance coming. Right now, it's terrifying to a lot of labels. Some labels like Snoop, he's embracing it. What I like about it is the possibility of culturally digital work, whether it be digital artwork or music, it's being accepted again as a piece of valuable art. So as before with streaming, though it's great to have access to 1 trillion songs, it just kind of blasts through. But this NFT, as it kind of evolves into whatever it's going to evolve into, it has that ability to kind of almost be like a digital vinyl record, or even, technically a combo. You have your digital vinyl and you have your actual vinyl that shows up, but it looks like it's going to give artists more hope, flexibility, opportunity, and the labels being what they are going to figure out a way to kind of corral it and put it into their little box. But it's going to be pretty hard. They have a lot of challenges ahead of them in order to do it. So this is kind of that time where I think we're going into sort of a renaissance of what is possible with this new sort of combination of music and a new type of technology that opens up possibilities for the first time since basically Napster.
Absolutely. Speaking of record labels, how do you see record companies kind of approaching this new paradigm of integration of music into NFTs? How do you see this changing?
Having a lot of experience dealing with labels, especially even on the business side, if there's one thing they're consistent at, it's being 20 years behind, which is what happened to streaming. They're like, we're going to charge people $20 an album. Streaming's not a thing. And then it was a nuclear bomb. So I think that they're going to look at this confused. And by the time that they figure it out, a lot will have changed. So someone like Death Row and Snoop, what they're doing, like he gets it, he'll figure it out. It'll be sick. But then all the labels are going to flock to him and just copy exactly what he did. So I think the labels are going to approach it from a very simplistic, unlock cool merch, unlock tickets, which is great, but I don't think they're going to see past what it could be. But it will evolve over time, but they're basically going to probably be watching Snoop and just copying whatever he does for a while,
Yeah, he's kind of setting the benchmark out there. So
yeah.
Let's talk about Meloscene a bit. So what does a metaverse ecosystem mean for musicians?
Okay, yeah. So Meloscene is, honestly, it's exciting. I could talk all day about it, but basically what it is I took that social aspect of music, that one-on-one, that nonverbal communication in the studio, that has been lost because especially when the pandemic hit, a lot of just sending files over email and all that. So what I did is I, with my teams and all that and the tech that we created, people will have the ability to go into these beautiful studios, performance spaces, high-rise loft apartments, all kinds of just amazing things, but they're going to be able to socialize and record in real time with each other, sessions, DJs can perform, singer, songwriter, you name it. But with the tech that we were able to hammer out, people can all be in a room and record on their own DAWs wherever they are in the world. So you and I could have a band within Meloscene, and you don't have to move to Los Angeles. And we can be in the metaverse existing. We could either be ourselves or we could be whatever, tigers wearing skirts. But like in that space, we're working very hard to bring back the social connection that music typically facilitates and has been somewhat lost since typical internet's pretty much a two-dimensional experience. So Meloscene is this ecosystem to sort of take it back in a weird way to the early music scenes of New York, Los Angeles, and places like that, and then reintroduce them into this metaverse space.
Awesome, awesome. Where did this idea hit you from? You obviously spoke about it hit you on a plane, right? But how did you kind of
Yeah.
go on to develop this idea into what it has been right now?
So yeah, so basically, again, it started when I was a kid. Just that thing of like, I can't connect to these musicians; they're too far away, and just kind of like went with me for a long time as I was tumbling through the music industry from underground and indie hip hop, all that stuff. Um, but then as I followed the technology, when the guy in Long Beach started to kick around the Oculus in 2000, I don't know what it was, 8 or 5 or something, that's when I started to be like, okay, we potentially have the ability to be one-on-one with each other, regardless of where we are on the planet for the first time. So I just started to kind of piece things together. And another key component was streaming music. If I have people in India streaming my music, I want to be with them. I want to perform for them. I want to interact with them. But for me to do a plane, a full tour, all of these things, it's an astronomical amount of money. If a label's behind you, they only want to hit certain regions. So streaming fragmented everyone's music, which is great, but into a million jars full of pennies around the world. But nobody could reach these people. I wanted to bring them all there. So if I perform in Meloscene, or if I just want to have a session and I'm like, hey, Roy, come in here. I'm working with this dude. He's a Grammy winning guy. You can come and just chill with us and experience the music, and we're all just together. So I just started kind of piecing together things that bothered me about life and not being able to connect with people, and then how to fix it. And the only way was to follow technology as it evolved. And then finally got to a place where it's like, okay, now I can actually make my thing, which was an absolute ridiculous pipe dream when I was a kid, but now it works.
Something like that must have you must have encountered a lot of challenges, right? So what would be some of the biggest challenges that you had while you were building Meloscene?
Man, people got really threatened by it. It was either one or the other. Either people were like, this is amazing, I cannot wait to be a part of this. But then other people thought it was a direct threat on their livelihood. We had a meeting with a top label person, and they just didn't understand what we were doing. They thought it was like we're killing labels, we're putting an end to it, we're battling streaming, and we're like, it's none of that. We're all together on this. And so we got yelled at for like 30 minutes of this person trying to tell us, you're killing music and all this different stuff. So the hardest thing has been communicating with just not that many people, but when people in the music industry don't get it, it makes them legitimately angry, which is a strange thing we didn't see coming. That has been really hard. Putting the team together, obviously that was really tricky. We had to navigate some business people who were just kind of like not getting things done. So it was a mix of kind of like navigating the entertainment industry, which operates a certain way, navigating the tech industry, which operates a certain way, and then just trying to bridge the gap between the two. And I mean, honestly, like in high school, these two groups would never sit at the same table. You have the musicians and you have the engineers, and they don't want anything to do with each other. And I basically have had to bring them together, which has been just, it's like putting cats in a bathtub. But we did it, and so that was a challenge.
Yeah, I can understand. So you've obviously been developing this for a while, right? So what are the features that musicians currently have, which they can explore in the Meloscene ecosystem, and what are the kind of the features are which you're kind of developing for musicians?
So one of the first things people obviously when they get into the platform when it launches this fall is the ability to record one-on-one or several members of a group, whatever, in a space, working off the same track. I can't talk about some of the amazing features because I'll get yelled at by our team. But people will be able to go in and create their music, collaborate, and then immediately they can release the music through Meloscene, either as an aggregator to the different streaming platforms, NFTing the music itself. What we're going to have is the ability for people to mint an NFT right from the studio when the song is finished, and to have splits where the different musicians are on that NFT. And then, of course, the ability to, you're going to have your space, which could be, there's going to be different types of spaces that you get to live in, essentially. and you can monetize the space as well. So if you want to have a podcast with a live audience, you can have that in your space, and anybody that's in the metaverse with a VR headset can come in and experience it. So the platform itself, it's free to all users. For the musicians, they have to buy the actual gear that brings their live instruments into the space. So it has those features. And then as it continues to roll out, there's stores, download options, release options, monetizing pretty much everything you can imagine. But it's a massive endeavor, which is why we are aggressively tackling it with people with teams across the globe. So it's kind of, again, I like to just, it makes sense in my head is that I'm taking it back to like 70s Sunset Strip in Los Angeles. When I played the strip, it kind of sucked because the 70s magic was gone. But back then it was like you went and you saw the band, there's an after party, maybe they did some acoustic music, there's a record store, Tower Records down the street. That's kind of that spirit is going into Meloscene.
Awesome. I have been into music a bit myself. I had a college band and stuff.
Great.
Yes. It was so endearing to actually have all the members together and be at one place and, jam together. After the pandemic,
exactly.
Completely this has stopped. So what it translated to was I kind of record something at my end. I send you the recording. You do an overlay on that and you superimpose and we create something together. But it's a lot of to and fro. So I can see how Meloscene can completely help make that feeling of bringing back that band feeling of jamming together and creating music together, which was the fun aspect of it in the first place, right?
Yeah, and that's human nature. Like, majority of our communication as humans is not verbal. So even in the studio, when we're working on a project, and if I'm playing something and the producer is, he's looking for that certain vibe, that energy where you just see people's bodies move a certain way and you're like, you just start to translate it. You don't even know what's happening. And that's that magic of music where it's like the music is now just doing its thing. It has to have that experience in the space together.
Exactly.
So this is that magic.
Awesome. I love this project already. Do you have any similar projects who are trying to, who are kind of your competitors, but also working in this space?
So there is ridiculous to say, and we've had countless hours of research and putting all the paperwork together, but there's no other groups doing what we are doing in this way. So there are fragments of it. Technically, one of our biggest, I guess, competitors is Twitch, because people want to hang out with people that are content creating. And what we're doing is allowing people to walk around in the room and sit down next to the person in that. So Twitch is one of the closest, maybe YouTube, but as far as like audio interfacing and music collaboration, it's very two-dimensional. You can do live sessions, obviously, through DAWs, but it's just your laptop and, hey, that sounds good. Let's try it again. But right now, even the major platforms, they're approaching more of a large performance aspect of it, which is great. But we are focused on the connection part, the performance part. That's inevitable. Like, that's coming. And the major artists are going to come into, but we're focusing on the connection.
So once we create that music, are you giving these artists and musicians a platform to release them as well? And do you have any integrations with, let's say, Audius, for example, or is there anything in the plans for something like that?
Yes, absolutely. The plan is a one-stop shop. So I want people to come in, collaborate, write, record. I want them to be able then to, if they want to release it through Meloscene, they're going to have different tiers of options of how they want to release it. I've been in this music world since I was a kid. It's a complete mess. Nothing makes any sense. And I want to fix it. I just think musicians need to be making music. They don't need to be worrying about the royalty splits, the publishing deals, like that stuff. It's absurdly complicated because it's built upon fragmented old systems and they keep just putting band-aids on it. So this is a reboot. And if musicians want to come in and they want to have their art be however they want, then we facilitate that release, that experience. That is what we are working and building. What's what we're building right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any musicians currently? Obviously, you are there, but do you have any other musicians also building on Meloscene right now?
We have a waiting list. We have a waiting list of musicians who are wanting to get in. and podcasters too, actually, which is kind of funny. And then we have like one of the guys on our team is Bas van Dalen, and he's a Grammy nominated. I think actually one of his projects just won a Latin Grammy, but he's on our team as well. So he has a whole army of very well-known musicians and artists that we're going to be working with inside the platform. And that's obviously on the major label level, but there's a trillion indie artists, singers, songwriters, DJs, rappers that are chomping at the bit. So if people are following Meloscene on like Instagram, or even just me on Instagram, when that time comes where it's like, okay, we're opening up the reserve list, then people can start putting in for it. I mean, actually I have an NFT out right now that for one of the songs off my upcoming album that unlocks a VIP experience where they get to go with me into Meloscene to do something. So yeah, there's a lot of people that are just kind of like buzzing, waiting to get in, but we're not going to let them in until it's ready. Otherwise, everybody just gets really mad. So yes, there is a waiting list.
Awesome. Is there also an option of building like a Metaverse concert, something like that, which has been tested earlier also? Have you been thinking of something like that in your platform as well?
Yeah, actually, one of our teams that is building the platform for us and with us that we're working with, they just did the Foo Fighters Metaverse event at the Super Bowl. So as far as the live event aspect goes, we also have some artists in Brazil who are wanting to do some performance. So that's inevitable. That's the given part. You're going to see big names in there and all that. But I don't think that would be until probably next year. Because again, I want to focus on reconnecting people that have been disconnected by algorithms in social media. Once we do that, then we can open up the doors for the big guys to come in and girls and then see where it goes.
Great. Chad, you're a futurist from what I know. And what is your vision for the future of the music industry? And how do you think Web3 technologies will complement this industry in the future?
So this is the way I see it going. And again, predicting the future is obviously like trying to predict a flock of birds. You do know that they're heading south, but how long or the direction, they kind of ping pong. So the way that I see it, a key component to the future of music is that everything's turning into amalgamation of several mediums of art. So because musicians have had to become fragmented with social media, video editing, and all that, that's going to roll over into Meloscene. And we have tools that are actually going to allow people to do more of a combination of their art. So the way I see it with art as a whole, especially music, is that it's going in the direction of a one blob of art. In which case, then that's what we're building into Meloscene is people have that. If you just want to like be an acoustic guitar player and all that, excellent, knock yourself out. But in the future, the way things are going is that I believe, especially with our platform, we're going to allow musicians to focus more on the music, the artwork, the experience versus marketing and things like that. The other thing about Web3 is it's going to take some time, I think, for the culture globally has to form it into what it wants it to be. Kind of like how when the internet kicked off, you had the like an AOL landing page, and it was like you could read like the news and check your email or whatever. And then websites started to pop up. Well, I think that the same thing with Web3 is going to happen, where it's going to find its footing and what people are comfortable with. And then it's going to be a matter of it just drifting and locking into place as far as how people want to experience it. But I think it's going to be a lot more freedom. And I think people are going to experience the internet the way people have been experiencing the internet, in my opinion, is we're experiencing about 15% of what people are creating and what we're consuming. It's not fully there because it's a flat box. With Web3, Metaverse, augmented reality, just the ability for people to have control over their assets. I think we're headed into a time of just, for the first time, the internet actually connecting people on multiple levels, where they're, you know what I mean? Like the ability to go into a shop and you can shop for your clothes, for your avatar and your real self, but I can actually talk to the shop owner. It might be like a bespoke, you know what I mean? Like, and they might be in a completely different country. Whereas right now it's an Etsy page and a weird message board thing.
Exactly.
So I think we're going to experience what the internet has been trying to be. I think we're finally heading into that realm. And again, it's going to take it back full circle unless people ruin it. to connecting with people for real again. No more fighting behind the keyboard. You have to speak it to someone face to face, and people get a lot nicer when there's no more keyboard to hide behind. So that's where I see it going. Hopefully it gets there.
Absolutely. Hope it does. So you have obviously had such a long career. What is the most important lesson that you've learned over your music career so far?
I think the first important lesson I learned is to be good at your art. I'm not the greatest guitar player in the world, but I'm good enough to know what I'm doing. And as even the industry has changed throughout the years, guitar has been the one thing where people still call me up and they're like, hey, let's do some stuff. So I guess number one is to be good at what you are doing. The second one is that you have to get good at failing and getting just kind of kicked in the teeth, which I know scares a lot of people, but the music industry is like 100 no's and 1 yes. And if your feelings are hurt after the first, second, 30th and 40th no, you're not going to make it. But if you just understand that you have to have thick skin, unbreakable resolve, I guarantee you will make it in the industry because, you've heard music that's out there. Some of these people definitely shouldn't be making music, but they have strength and grit, sometimes just a lot of money from other sources, but they're doing it. So I would say, yeah, be good at what you are doing, have unbreakable resolve, and it's okay if people get mad at you and tell you no. Somebody will tell you yes. You just got to keep digging around.
Awesome. Who is someone that you kind of look up to in the music industry or just as a musician, for example?
I mean, in the music industry, musically, I have 1,000 people I look up to. Freddie Mercury has been the one consistent one I've looked up to my whole life, right?
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion,
you said it.
He's the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, there's a lot of great artists, great singers, but Freddie Mercury to me, just absolutely incredible. Obviously, Michael Jackson, they all kind of just hit that mark. I like, as far as like guitarists go, every style has a different person I'm into. Like John Frusciante, he's taught me how to have tasteful phrasing musically, versus just smashing it out on the guitar. However, if I do need to just smash it out on the guitar, then Jack White has got some good stuff. But as far as like, I guess as a whole, weirdly enough for me, my kind of life inspirations that again didn't matter until recently are inventors from back in the day. So when I was a kid, I was fascinated by the Wright brothers, Tesla, George Washington Carver, who's a lot of people might not know who George Washington Carver is, but to me, he's one of the greatest minds on the planet. Anybody that can extract 1,000 things from one peanut, that's the ultimate genius, So I don't really have I have like an inspiration for every single section of things that I'm interested in. But musically, I would have to say, Brian May. I can't leave out Brian May. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? But yeah, Freddie Mercury is probably the pinnacle. And then there's countless other people in there that I lose my mind over. They're just incredible,
Absolutely. I kind of resonate with your list a lot. Queen is one of my most favorite bands out there, and
I know I could go. Brian May, by the way, everyone knows this, and I don't even care. But the fact that dude, when they did "We Will Rock You," no guitarist in his right mind would say, "I'm not going to play for almost the entire song." Every guitarist in the world wants to play the entire song, and the fact that he was like, "No, I'm not going to play until the end," and then he still managed to come up with a solo that still surpassed what Freddie Mercury had been doing the entire song. Like, to me, I'm just like, and most people are like, yeah, it's got a good beat. I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is genius. Like, genius. I said it.
Absolutely. I like to ask this question to especially musicians. How would you like to be remembered?
As a musician, you
mean?
A
musician, or even as a person, how would you like to be remembered?
I mean, I guess as a musician, I just want somebody to stumble across my music in the future and it inspires them to try stuff. That happened with me with Bedřich Smetana. He's a composer. You know that is, right? I stumbled across his music while on a tour. And I was like, this guy, has been dead forever, and he's changing my life right now. And so that was a huge factor, is that I want my music to hopefully land on someone's playlist in the future, and it just makes them feel something, and then they try something. As a person, I have no idea. I hope that if I succeed, I am remembered for trying to fix a lot of wrongs that have happened in history, whatever. Someone who tried to just unite everyone. I just want to, but like, not like a pageant, like a beauty pageant person. Like, I'm trying to build something that legitimately connects everyone again, or I guess for the first time, maybe. But so, yeah, that one's complicated, but I would have to say, hopefully, as someone who tried. I tried real hard. Someone who tries hard. That's what I'm remembered as.
Do you have any regrets about something that you wanted to do as a musician, but you couldn't because of whatever reason it could be? And if you have any regrets about your career?
No. There's a lot of things I wanted to do that did not happen. But because I sort of just rode the wave, better things ended up happening. So yeah, I oddly enough, I don't have any regret. I have regrets of maybe, trying to contact the wrong music people or getting ripped off by managers. That's happened countless times. But no, I think that's the thing, is with music, you just got to roll with it. So every time that I've just kind of like let things take place and happen, it just always turned into something ultimately better. I feel like I have a regret of like buying a certain instrument or something at one time.
I think that we can allow.
I'll let you know. Right.
Everybody's been there, to be honest.
Yeah, wrong software download on my DAW. I don't know. There's probably something in there. Playing the wrong venue.
Absolutely. Chad, this is specifically for musicians who are starting out. Mm-hmm. What is that one piece of advice that you would give them?
Actually, this one, yeah, I have two pieces because I've kind of lived by them. Number one, always leave people wanting more. So if you make a track or a song or whatever you're doing, cut it off when you're like, this is amazing, and you want to go back into it, cut it off. You want to leave people on that high. Do not beat them to death. They will hate you. Number two, you need to really sit down and decide, are you a bedroom musician or a professional musician? Both are fine. But bedroom musicians get confused why nobody ever wants their music. And it's because they are making it for themselves or maybe just their friends. And that's totally fine. But if you want to be a professional musician, you have to look into like commercial music, major label. It's like making a movie. If you want to be an actor, you can be a blockbuster actor and you're going to have cheesy lines and fight robots, or if you want to be an indie actor who does movies that nobody sees, you get to have amazing parts, but figure out what you are and then go after it. But don't just kind of go after all of it. Try to pick a lane. And then when you kind of establish yourself in either one, you can always then start to branch out, because then you'll know how to branch out into the other section.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Awesome. I think that's a great piece of advice. Chad, one of my last questions is for Meloscene specifically, right? So if new indie musicians or people who are new to NFTs for that matter, if they want to come to Meloscene and start creating music, what is that message you would want to give them? What is that kind of vision that you want to show about this industry, which will be useful for them to kind of build their music on?
So when they come into Meloscene, and assuming that I did my part correctly, they should be able to find their people, or maybe it's everyone. But I would say establish some real connections with people. Let's get back to that, where let's say you show up into Meloscene, look on the list and see who's in a studio and who's allowing people to pop in. Get into that studio, say hello, meet people, connect, start there. And keep doing that. It'll make sense on its own, because you'll start to find that the people who want to connect with you and make music with you are going to go, can you show me some of your music? Just like how people have been doing it forever. So I would say just be open to meeting people, and just sharing creativity. We're not interested in people coming in to slam and critique music. This is a platform for creative people to try stuff. We need to get back into trying new things. So do not be afraid to make a fool of yourself. That's the point. come into Meloscene, make a fool of yourself. Just try creating something.
Absolutely. And for people who want to check out Meloscene, the links are obviously in the description. You can go check that out. For Chad, if our audience wants to connect with you online, what would be the best way to do that?
I think best way is probably Instagram. It should just be at Chad Gerber, or if you type in Woodrow Gerber, you should see it. Instagram's probably the best one. But honestly, if you send something somewhere to Woodrow Gerber, it'll get to me at some point. And then, of course, Meloscene, that one's probably going to be Instagram as well. But again, if you follow me, I'm going to be telling you about where all the goodies are and all that stuff anyway. So I'd say probably Instagram for 20 points.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can follow Chad on all of his social channels, which are mentioned in the description again. Chad, it was an honor speaking with you today, and it was great learning about...
honors. Oh, bro, likewise.
It was really great learning about your background, your journey. We got a lot of insights into, music, about NFTs, and about the Meloscene Metaverse as well. So thank you for sharing these insights with our audience, and I would love to see Meloscene becoming a reality out there for all the musicians who want to kind of just build music and, leave the business, leave everything behind and just focus on the music part, right? So I really wish you all the best with this project that you have.
Much appreciated, Roy. And hopefully maybe you can make your way to the States. I think I'm supposed to be keynote at the Miami NFT Expoverse convention. I think that's in October. I don't know. Just check on Instagram. But anybody that wants to come to that and come hang out, that would be amazing. And I could talk to you about music and NFTs or not. If that bores you to death, I will not talk about it. But thank you, Roy. Man, you're a legend. You're a legend, Roy.
Thank you so much.